Story 1. AITAH for considering ending my engagement because my fiancé wants to sell our house to fund his new business while I'm pregnant and the sole breadwinner. I 29 FAM engaged to Adam 27M. We have been together for 4 years, and when we met, we held the same job title at different companies. We earned about the same, and then a few months into our relationship, Adam started a business. The business took off, and Adam went part-time and I worked nights to help the business. After COVID, demand fell, and a few bad decisions later, Adam was in debt. Adam had to sell the business to cover himself, and he got a loan from his parents. In this time, I paid our bills for a few months and we had cutbacks, and at one point it was bad enough that we might have had to move in with his brother. At the height of the business, he earned more than me, and we were able to get a good mortgage for a house we wouldn't be able to afford if we had just kept our jobs. Adam got his old job back and a slight raise after selling the business. I have been promoted, and then at the start of the year got a massive pay raise into a management position at my company. It was down to luck. My boss was leaving, and she recommended me for the role, although it would have taken me a few more years to get this position anywhere else. I found out I was pregnant, and since telling him, everything has changed. We have discussed kids in the past, and that I would be a SOM, but right now I earn nearly 2.5x more, so it doesn't make sense for me to quit. Adam said he thought before us having a baby, he would have wanted his business to take off. We had a fight. As this is the absolute worst time to start a business, it hasn't been a month since he's paid off his parents, but he showed me his new business plans that will be funded by selling our house and downsizing. This time he insists it will take off, and he's learnt from old mistakes, and it's a solid plan, IMO, and I would have supported him if I wasn't pregnant. We have no savings for the baby and no backup plan if the business fails, and we'll have to sell our house, and Adam would need to earn my salary for us to ever be able to afford our now mortgage rate. I don't want to sell, but Adam says we wouldn't have even able to get the house in the first place without him. I can't believe Adam is being selfish and wants to quit his old job and start a business right now. I hate my new job, which Adam knows as management is very different, and I want my old job back. But for the baby, I am keeping my job and making a sacrifice, and Adam just needs to keep his job and maybe revisit the business idea in the future. I just don't know what to do, and I haven't told anyone else about the baby. I was on AITAH but was taken down. Story 2. AITAH for breaking up with my ex-GF after they came out as trans last week. Writing this on a throwaway account as my ex knew the name of my other account. I'm 26M and my ex-GF is 24. We had been dating for around 4 years with a 6-month pause. We ended up getting back together for a couple more years after my ex moved back here in Georgia. Just a couple weeks ago, I noticed they had been acting more distant from me but not losing their affectionate behavior. I didn't get any explanation on why this was happening until later on. I thought they were going to move back to their state because something not much different happened back when they moved away the first time. It wasn't going on for this long, though. They told me a couple days before moving away. This instance, it took a week to get the answer. Last week they came to me while I was still sleeping and rudely awoke me by shaking arms and legs. They yelled at me, "You found out, huh?" And I was confused by what they were talking about, and I asked what. About me being a trans man, they said. I didn't have time to react or respond to it before they slammed the bedroom door shut, and I heard the car leave. They had short hair now, too. I woke up at 10 a.m. abruptly and didn't see them last night because I was working night shift. Later that day, they came back and apologized for the morning behavior, and she hugged me and then kissed me. I felt very uncomfortable knowing that they identify as a guy now and not the woman I once knew. They asked to have sex with me, not even minding the fact I'm straight, and I don't think that counts. That night had to be the most uncomfortable of my life. They gripped me from behind the whole night and massaged my shoulders, and I almost threw up in my mouth. I decided to break up with them. I told them in afternoon after they got back from a college lecture. I asked them to leave as I was the only one paying rent every month for this place. They blocked me on all social media we had connected together. I'm not sure how to feel about this. I'm afraid I'll be called a homophobe or anything along those lines. I have plenty of gay friends and I support them. TLDR, my ex-GF came out as a transgender man and lashed out while first telling me. They later acted strange after apologizing. We broke up the next morning. Edit, I am sorry for my bad grammar. English is my second language and I don't use it as much as my main language, so my English abilities differ. The way I badly worded this post made a lot of people think it's fake while I am over here mentally upset at what happened. First comment. Listen, I am as cool with whatever as it gets. I'm BI. And would probably identify as NB if I wasn't 50 and too tired. What your ex-partner did was massively overstep a whole bunch of boundaries. And it's kind of understandable, they have a lot to deal with, but on the other hand, it's pretty obvious that one shouldn't come out as trans to one's unsuspecting and differently gender attracted, I'm sure there's a proper term for this partner, then immediately be like, hey, let's have sex. I mean, you could have said no, my good man, I hope. And no, you're not a homophobe. If you suddenly find yourself having sex with a man who's acting all manly when who you thought you were having sex with, who you gave consent to, was from your perspective, a woman ... who boy. I mean, that's bordering on sexual assault, maybe via incompetence on their part, but still AF king trauma, dear Lord. You are not an asshole. I'm not entirely sure they're really an asshole either, though they have badly mismanaged their asset. I'm wondering, do you think they've started testosterone? Because that behavior absolutely reeks of a sudden rise in T levels. Jesus. A mess. Talk to someone smarter than Reddit and take care of yourself. Story 3. AITAH for deciding not to marry or have kids now with my girlfriend after 6 years after meeting her rural Turkish family. He will try to be somewhat vague because I'm paranoid. So I've M29 white American European mix living in Northern Europe, been in a relationship with a wonderful, intelligent, beautiful woman that I love. She is Turkish, but we met in another more developed Western European country while traveling for work. We both work in the same industry, creative, and the quality and depth of her work was also something that made me attracted to her. She has always seemed like a perfect partner for me, and I long thought that we would probably get married and have kids because she has such a nurturing effect. And we get along like best friends even after rough periods, arguments, etc. I never really knew anything about Turkey other than it being a Muslim country, and by traveling there many times to see her or to meet her parents, it was slowly revealed to me that Turkey is a double-sided country, where some people are quite liberal, Western adjacent, and open-minded. Especially in cities like Istanbul and Izmir, but then everywhere else things can quickly become very closed and people are even afraid to marry outside of their own village. Unfortunately, she was always embarrassed about her background because she is herself very open-minded, artistic, and doesn't care about cultural boundaries. We lived together in Europe for a long time without her family knowing because that's not allowed before marriage in their culture. We both worked for huge multinational companies on creative projects that are seen by millions and have a very global perspective. Her English is also very fluent. She often says her English is better than her Turkish at this point. She is kind of the black sheep of the family. She refuses to wear hijab anywhere, wears shorts controversial there, has tattoos and other things seen as rebellious. Her family does not understand how she makes money, nor do they care, by the way. She has given tens of thousands of euros to them because they have been struggling financially. Well, when I met her direct family siblings' parents, they were very friendly and accepted me with open arms. However, because the there is originally from an eastern village in Turkey, the extended family, which contains the eldest uncle of the family, the patriarch, basically has proven to be a big problem. And so her there needs to answer to that older uncle when it comes to the marriage of her daughter. All of this seems incredibly backwards to me as an outsider, but I have always been trying to suspend my judgment and go along with things to see where it goes. So we eventually came to the said village in the east. I met the extended family, about 30 to 40 people in total, for a random wedding of a cousin, and I was frankly shocked by the level of poverty, the level of conservative ideology, illiteracy, and lack of education. It felt like visiting a really third world country village, not like Istanbul, which can pass as first world sometimes. Then the uncle recognized that me and my GF wanted to probably get married. We didn't say this explicitly, and there is a more complicated engagement ritual for that, and he said that we could, but I would have to convert to Islam and also invest in Turkish real estate. This boundary and the fact that her family seem to live in a completely different world and are very limited in their understanding of other cultures or other ways of life made me start to think deeply about things. I felt suffocated the whole time with these people. Suddenly, after this experience, I felt like everything was over. My GF tried to reassure me and say that we could still get married without them knowing, or they wouldn't care after a couple years, etc. But I started to think about the hypothetical kids we would have and the pressure they would be under if we involved her family in any way. I wouldn't want to interact with these people in any way. The cultural divide just seems way too huge. And I feel really St. Pid because it took me a long time to realize that. But she really withheld this from me because she also hates her family and is going completely against their traditions with her actions. I still love her and I wish we could make it work, but I eventually said that it's just too complicated. Now she probably would have to deal with blowback from her family anyways, and her life has been derailed quite a bit, so has mine. What do you guys think of this mess? First comment. Honestly, Op seems to be projecting a lot of misogynistic stereotypes onto his GF. She showed you for 6 years who she is, and all it took was one visit to her conservative extended family to decide that she's not her own person, that you know what's best for her, that the cultural divide that she spent years narrowing by embracing Western values is insurmountable? Not to mention you say her immediate family has welcomed you. Everyone has a wacko relative somewhere in the extended family tree, and it's telling that it took you 6 years to meet them, because it shows they're obviously not a big part of her life. AITAH. You honestly sound very paternalistic, like you don't trust her to be strong enough to make her own decisions about how she wants to live her life, despite mountains of evidence to the contrary that you yourself provided. If this is just an excuse to end a relationship that you already checked out of, don't gaslight her into making her culture the problem. It sounds like she's the one with the strong sense of identity and strength of character, and deserves someone who doesn't scare so easy.